In this video, you will create a form with a text, an email, a radio button, and a checkbox, and a message from the user. So let's see how we can do it. The first thing you need to do is to add a form element. This form element accepts two attributes, the action attribute and the method attribute. The action attribute defines the action to be performed when the form is submitted. For example, if you set this link here, when you submit the form, the browser will send the data to this link. You will learn more about this when you work with a server-side programming language like Python or PHP. So I don't want you to be confused right now. Then the method attribute specifies the HTTP method you can use. For example, you can use the method post or the method get. Again, I don't want to explain it, I don't want you to be confused. When you will learn a server-side programming language, you will understand them. So now let's see how we can add inputs to accept data. You can use the input element and you give it a type. In our case, it is just text. So if we do this, then we preview the result, we have the input and we can add some text here. For you, it is clear that this input is for the name. That's because you are the only one who developed this website. But for other users, they don't know what is it for. So you can help them by either adding a placeholder or a label. So let's see how to add the placeholder. So you go to your input and add a placeholder attribute, and here you set a value. So let's type in this, and now we have the placeholder. You can also add a label to it, but first I will remove this placeholder and I will add a label here. Using the label elements, and let's use the for attributes, and here you set the idea of your input. So let's give an idea to this input and you use the same value here. And now when we preview the result, we have the label, and when we click on it, we have the input that is active. Great. So let's add another input for the email. So I will add a label here, then the input element, and I will give it a type of email and an ID that will be used for the label. Great. There are a lot of types available for you to use. For example, you can use the type of password, and now the characters are masked. You can give it a value of radio or maybe a value of checkbox. Well, there are a lot of types available for you. I think that by now you are able to look for anything that you need on the web, and you don't need any help from me. So if you want to know all of the types available for you, you just have to do a simple Google search. So here let's write back the email. Great, and then let's add a radio button. You do this by setting the type to radio, and you give to all of the buttons for the same purpose the same name. Great, now we have our radio button. Let's also add checkboxes. You just set the type to checkbox. Great, now let's add an input for the message. For this, we will use the text area element, which will allow the user to enter multi-line text. So let's do it. Now let's test what we have created in the browser. Great. And finally, we have to add a button to submit our data. And you do this using the type submit on either the button element or the input element. Here I will use the button element and I will give it a type of submit. And now when we preview the result, we add our data and our form is working properly. Now here is something that you may be using. Sometimes you have some input fields that are required and others that are optional. So you don't want the form to be submitted if the user don't provide certain informations. For example, you want the name input, the email input, and the message input to be required. To fix this, you just add the required attribute to these elements. And now if the user does not enter these fields, the form won't be submitted. Great.